everybody and welcome. In today's video I'm going to make the Seamwork Loretta top, which is what I'm wearing now, and it's mostly because every time I wear this top in a video I get lots and lots of questions in the comments as to what pattern it is, and it looks like you guys like it and you wanted to see it in more detail. And I've been thinking of making a second version. This one I made back in 2018, and at first I didn't really wear it very often because it was a little bit too blousy and feminine and fluffy for me, but my style has evolved into a little bit more of this kind of fashion, and it's especially really practical in the summertime because it's just really loose and airy and breathy, and it works with a lot of different kind of fabrics. You can make it in a drapier fabric or a stiffer fabric. This is a cotton voile, for example, and I just love it. I think that it's great. And so this is a beginner pattern, and it's relatively easy to make. Both the front and the back are cut on the fold, and then you just insert the raglan sleeves, these flutter sleeves, and then insert the neckband elastic and the casing at the neckband, and then you're done after hemming. And so yeah, it's a pretty easy basic project to get into if you're looking for a final make for summer, or I'm talking about final because it's now September here in Paris when I'm filming, and it has been gray and gloomy and rainy for the past week or so. But I will be going to Biarritz very soon to go see a friend and to attend the Dance Festival of Biarritz, which is happening from the 5th to the 15th of September. And this is kind of a last minute plan, and I'm so excited. And it looks like it's sunny and warm. It's on the southwestern coast of France in the Basque Country, and I'm so excited. So I think I will be able to wear this top again and eke out a little bit more of my summertime. But yeah, it's a great summer top. It's a great easy pattern for summer if you're looking for that, and it's a lot of fun to wear. So this pattern is available in Seamwork sizes 0 to 26, which is a 33 to a 54-inch bust. I will be making the smallest size, the size 0, because my bust is about 31.5 inches or 32 inches maximum. And so the 33-inch bust is a little bit too big for me, but since this blouse is already pretty loose and I can control the tightness of the elastic at the neckline, it's fine. And then it comes in two different lengths. You can make it in a shorter blouse version, which is more of a straight hem that hits at the high hips, or you can make the tunic version, which features a curved hem. And then this pattern also features a waist tie that you can use with the tunic length version to create a waist by tying it around the waist, and then if you want to, you can add little belt loops at the side seams. There are pattern pieces for that as well to hold the waist tie in place. So the version that I will be making is the tunic length version, or as long as I can get it, in this small meter-long cut of Nani Iro fabric that I purchased on my honeymoon when we were in Kyushu, and I found it at Torayamu in Fukuoka. And it was just irresistible. This was definitely a splurge, and that's why I only bought a meter. It is 80% cotton and 20% silk, and it is just super soft. I can't, yeah. Oh man, it's gonna feel so nice against the skin. And I have been hemming and hawing over what I want to make with this for a long time, because as you can see, the little painted on flowers that are absolutely beautiful are pretty widely spaced. And it's directional. Oh gosh, I need to pay attention to that. I think this is the right side because the flowers would be falling upside down otherwise. And so I wanted something voluminous to take advantage of the gorgeous illustrations on this fabric and not cut them out and have big blank spots. So because this is slightly gathered, oh, it's falling down because the microphone's heavy. Because it's slightly gathered at the neckline, and there's a lot of volume at the waist, or integrated in the sides in general, I think that I will be able to use, or these will be kind of sitting closer together when I'm wearing them and bring a little bit more color into this garment, and then also feature these really beautiful painted on flowers. They look painted on. I'm sure it was printed or something, but perhaps for the first, I don't know, maybe it was painted given the price. But I just love this. I mean, it's got such beautiful details. I don't know if you can see that, but for example, the flowers on this fabric look like they have teeny tiny little outlines of slightly glittery, or not glittery, but of slightly sparkling lines, and it's just gorgeous. And so I'm excited to make this. I'm not sure if I have enough because this pattern calls for 2 meters and I have 1, but I think so. If not, I'll just sort of modify the length. And I will not be making the waist tie because I always wear this top tucked in like this into high-waisted pants or skirts. This is my Seamwork Joss pants in a linen fabric, for example, that I made very recently in a vlog as well, if you'd like to check that out. And so yeah, since I'll be tucking this in all the time, I won't be making the waist tie because I made one for this version that I'm wearing now, but I just never ever wear it. So I figured if I can save fabric that way, I will. So that's what I'll be making today. I hope it will help you if you want to try and make this pattern to follow along. This will not be a step-by-step tutorial because this is not my pattern and that would be an infringement of Seamwork's copyright on this pattern, but I do highly recommend checking out this pattern. Their instructions are really, really well done and really easy to follow if it's your first project, for example. This video is not sponsored, it's just my opinion. And so yeah, I hope you enjoy, and let me get started cutting because this is already washed. I pre-washed it on a delicate cycle with my washing machine and then hand dried it, and it's ready to get cut out. Okay, so it is the next day now, and I have all of my pieces cut out and ready to go. So I did have to modify the pattern quite a bit to get it to fit on my small meter of fabric. And I think that if my fabric were wider, it would have fit in a meter. It is kind of long, but the pieces are very wide and they require a lot of fabric. And I even left out a bunch of pieces, which I'll explain in just a moment. And so I ended up so that everything would fit on my fabric, which was 120 centimeters wide, or 47 inches. I decided to remove about 2.5 centimeters or 1 inch from the side seams on the front, the back, and the sleeve seam that's become part of the side seam to reduce the width of each, and then the front and the back fit just fine on my fabric. And then for the sleeve, the sleeve is sort of like a circle. It's a flutter sleeve, so it's got lots of volume and it's very circular, the hem or the shape. And so what I did was I slashed, and then rather than spreading, which would add more volume, I reduced the volume by sort of layering the pieces on top of each other where I'd made slashes. That sort of messed up the grain line, as you can see, but I think that because I was then able to fit this piece onto the remaining fabric that I had and cut it out, the flutter will be smaller and not as voluminous, but I think it'll still be just as floaty and lovely as I'd like. And then, yeah, I wasn't entirely sure where the grain line should go, but I don't think, because it's not a close fitting sleeve, I don't think that'll be very noticeable if it's slightly off grain. And so it's all cut out. So I definitely did not cut out the waist tie and the waist tie loops that go at the side seam. Did not have enough fabric anyway, even if I had changed my mind. But for the neckline casing, where the elastic goes, and to finish the neckline, it requires a pretty long piece of fabric cut on the bias, which it eats up a lot of fabric if you've ever cut out a piece on the bias. And so rather than doing that, because I just did not have the fabric, I decided that I'll be using a self-made bias binding or self-made bias tape that I made out of this viscose by Atelier Brunette. It is one of their sort of staple viscoses It's got this sort of pebbly feel to it, and it's very, very soft, but as you can see, it wrinkles very, very easily. And I made a blouse out of this fabric once, but I almost never wore it because after only one wear, it started falling apart at the seams, which is why I don't really buy this fabric anymore. And I made the rest of it into bias binding because it's just so loosely woven and so delicate, it just sort of dissolves at the seams, which is a shame because it's usually in really beautiful colors. But I'm going to use this because it looks like, if you compare it to a piece of the fabric, it's got a very similar weight and drape to the fabric, and it's got this slight peachy color. So it'll probably be pretty invisible from the right side of the fabric. My elastic is white, so that will show through to the front, but I think that because the neckline casing is gathered up with the elastic once it contracts, the gathers will add opacity, so it won't be too noticeable at the neckline. So those are all the modifications I made to create this. The next step is to sew stay stitching along the neckline on all the pieces, and then sew up the side seams. I did not do that when I cut them out yesterday, and I probably should have because you're supposed to stay stitch as soon as you cut them out, but I kept them nice and flat. I didn't have them hanging or anything, so normally that seam wouldn't have stretched out overnight, but you never know. So I'm going to do that right away, and then to do the inner seams, I don't want to do the faux overlocking stitch with my machine because this is very delicate fabric and I know it's just going to get sort of chewed up on my machine. I'm going to do French seams along the side seam, and that'll be easy because the neckline casing is already, or the neckline's already going to be encased. The hem will be double folded, or I'll do a baby hem. And then, yeah, the only other seam is the side seam. And so because it's continuous from the bottom of the blouse hem to the hem of the sleeve this way, or it's sewn that way, after attaching the sleeve, it's sort of a raglan attachment to the fronts and the backs, I can pretty easily put a French seam there, even though that's not included in the instructions. And so yeah, that's what I'll be doing. And I have about 2 hours to work on this, a little bit less. So let's see how much I get done in that time. Hello everybody, so it's a few days later now and I finally have some time to sew. So last time I finished sewing the sleeves in, the raglan sleeve here, or the way it's constructed, it's a raglan style, and then also the side seams, both with French seams, so that the seams are nice and encased and neat on the inside of the garment. What I didn't realize is that the tunic length is actually pretty long. And comparing it to the previous version that I made, I think I shortened it and forgot to note that down because I made it years and years ago, more than 6 years ago, I forgot. And so it's longer than I need it to be because it will be tucked in, but that's okay. It's a bit of a shame because maybe if I had shortened it, I would have had enough fabric to make the sleeves without modifying them. Maybe. But there you go. If I cut it now, it'll just be waste, so I'll just leave it. So now I need to finish the hems at the sleeves and then also the hem here. And I'm going to do baby hems or rolled hems, whatever they're called. And it basically, so the pattern just plans for the hem to be double folded, but I'm going to roll it and create like a very small rolled hem because this is such a light floaty fabric that I want the hem to be not to limit the movement or be stiffer than it needs to be. I want it to kind of flow with the rest of the fabric. So that's what I'm going to do at both the sleeves and the hem, and then I just need to insert the neckband elastic casing, which will be this handmade bias tape in this viscose fabric that I will iron before using. I think I have more than enough here. And then insert the elastic, sew the casing closed, and then it'll be done. So I think that it's about 4 in the afternoon now. I think I'll be able to finish it in about an hour or two, probably 2. And then show you. So I've basically sewn the bias tape to the neckline. And I completely forgot that the elastic casing becomes the neckline rather than sitting within the neckline. So it's going to sit above it and create this fold of the casing is the neckline, which means that this fabric will be entirely visible from the outside. Oh. I was looking at my previous version that I was wearing the other day, and that's how the neckline is constructed there. So not only is there less volume in the sleeves, but this version is super long. And the neckline's messed up. What I could do is take the volume from the hem. So I think I have, let's see, how much extra do I have? That's a good 10 centimeters, right? The only thing is that this neckline casing is supposed to be cut on the bias. Could I make bias out of 10 centimeters of a hem like this? I'm not sure. Ugh. Yeah, let me try and fix this and I'll let you know what I do. Okay, it's the next day now and I have figured out what I want to do and I am in a better mood. So what I decided to do was I'm going to remove this bias binding that I sewed around the neckline because I think that it doesn't look very nice as the edge of the neckline because this part will be visible. What I did instead is I shortened the top to the length that my first Loretta top was cut to. So I just used it, I measured from the arm seam here down to the seam here, marked it, and then trimmed. It turned out to be 17.5 centimeters longer than my previous version. So I removed 1 centimeter so that I have enough for the hem, and I just shortened everything by 16.5, making sure to measure that around the curved hem to keep that curved shape as well. And so with that fabric that I cut off, I then cut bias strips, teeny tiny pieces of bias. I used the center front fold, so when I cut out this top, both the front and the back are on pieces that are cut out on the fold, and that fold line is perpendicular to the grain line. And I could still see that fold line along the two pieces, the front and the back, and so I sort of knew that that was perpendicular to the grain line, and I followed that with my ruler to cut out these strips that are 3 centimeters wide, which is how wide that piece around the neckline is going to be. I have a lot more bias tape than I'll need for the neckline, but I figured why not use up every single last scrap of this fabric if I can, because it's so beautiful. And so yeah, now I just need to sew all these little tiny pieces together. I have them pinned. I did that last night. That's going to take a little while. I'm probably going to sew it with a very narrow seam, probably 1/4 of an inch, for example, and then iron those open, cut the length that I need for the neck, unpick this, sew that, re-sew the hem of the shirt because now it's a raw bottom again, and then I will be finished. So hopefully I'll finish today because I leave for Biarritz to go visit my friend tomorrow. Very early in the morning, so I will not be able to work on this for a while otherwise. And as you can see, I'm dressed in warmer clothes because the summer has left us quite quickly here in the north of France. And I am very stubbornly, obstinately hanging on to my very last summer make. I will wear this. Even if it's no longer very seasonally appropriate. I will bring it to Biarritz with me and I will wear it in the sun, even if it's only for a few hours. So I will finish this today, then pack up my stuff, and hopefully have time to show you this before I get to Biarritz. Otherwise, try it on for you when I get to my friend's place. So here it is, the finished Loretta blouse, or top, that I made out of this Nanny Iro fabric. It was a journey. I highly recommend double checking that you have enough fabric for this project. I definitely had to modify it a few ways to get it to work. I think that the reduced amount of flare in the sleeves actually doesn't really show up so much. I think that there's still a nice flutter to these flutter sleeves, even if I did reduce the circular shape of the sleeves about, I'd say, maybe 10 centimeters. And then yeah, this length works for me really well because I can tuck it in easily to high-waisted pants or skirts. These are the Seamwork Joss pants that I was wearing at the very beginning of this video with the first version of this top that I made. And yeah, I think the trickiest part of this was inserting the elastic because it is such a thin elastic, getting it all the way around and then redistributing the gathering around the neckline. I ended up cutting the elastic an extra, I'd say 5 inches. They do recommend measuring around your shoulders and then removing 2 inches, so that would be 7 inches total for me. And this is what I get to. I think maybe it might be a little bit tighter and pulled in because I shortened the elastic quite a lot, and it is kind of tight when I pull it down off the shoulder, but I usually wear it like this anyway, so that doesn't really bother me. And yeah, I'm really glad that I found a use for this really nice Nanny Iro fabric, and it's so soft, and now all I need is for the weather to cooperate with my delusion that it is in fact the end of summer and not the beginning of fall, which is not at all the case today, as it is overcast and rainy and cold. But I will be traveling to Biarritz tomorrow, so hopefully I'll get to wear this. But I hope you enjoyed this video anyway. I hope this gave you ideas as to future summer projects, or if you're in the southern hemisphere, for example, a project for the upcoming beautiful sunny season that you'll be having soon. Don't hesitate to check out the description. I have linked this pattern and then also the patterns of all the other clothes that I wore in this video if you're curious and you'd like to see what those were. And let me know what your projects are at the moment. Are you hanging on to the summertime and making a few last or one last summer project, or are you diving straight into fall makes? Are you excited about the fall season? Because I do like fall, but I miss the sun, especially in the past few weeks. I hope that you are all doing well. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again here soon with a new video. Bye-bye.